All right, welcome. Today we're going to go over resistance training. Now, the concept of resistance training, that can include many things. That could be using like TRX straps or thick rubber bands for resistance. It could be dumbbells or barbells or kettlebells, or just your body weight, like when you do push-ups and things like that with calisthenics. So there's lots of different ways you can do resistance training, and it's going to vary from person to person, what type of equipment you have, what you prefer. So it's going to be an exploration process with this as you're doing this to see what you like and what you can stick with. So I'll help you customize that as we go along. But today, I just want to go over some basic principles of weightlifting, resistance training, and then just show you a few new exercises to do. So the first thing I want to remind you is to warm up. It's not going to be very fun if you just roll out of bed cold and start doing these exercises. You're more likely to get injured. So it's always wise to warm up for maybe 5 minutes first. Get the blood flowing through your muscles, heart rate up, get more pliable so you're not so stiff and sore. So it's good to warm up for about 5 minutes before you do these exercises. Another important concept to remember is to keep your core stabilized the whole time. A lot of times when you go to the store, you'll see the guys stacking shelves. They have to wear those safety belts. And the reason for that is they're trying to stabilize their core so they don't get hurt. Same thing with us. Anytime we're working, your energy actually originates from your core and then it moves out to your extremities. And so we want to make sure that it's always stabilized. And the way you do that is by just basically flexing and keeping tight when you're doing these exercises, your abs and glutes and things. So you just always want to pretend. I visualize that there's like a little 4 or 5 year old kid, like a little brat running around, and he's always just trying to come up and punch me in the stomach. And so if you just imagine that you got like someone like that that's just always going to hit you, and you're just always prepared, tight core like that. That's kind of the mentality you have when you're working out. That you just try and keep things nice and tight. So that'll help protect you to do that. Another important thing is breathing. I see a lot of people holding their breath when they work out, and that I understand why, because your body's natural inclination is when something gets hard, you stop breathing. And so we want to overcome that by practice. So what you want to do is exhale slightly on the hard part of an exercise. So for instance, with a push-up, when you're pushing yourself up off the ground, when it's the hardest part, that's when you want to breathe out. And so I imagine if you have like a little cupcake with one candle in it, just what it would take to go. So it's not like you're blowing up big balloons or hypoventilating. You don't want to overdo it, but you don't want to hold your breath because that'll cause your blood pressure to skyrocket. And sometimes you can pass out if you hold your breath doing heavy exercise. So I recommend you remember to breathe, exhale on the hard part of the exercise. So I'll remind you about that as we do some of these. Another thing, there's different ways of doing resistance training. There's different types. There's compound movements where you're moving your whole body. So an example of that is if you're picking up a box off the floor, lifting it up over your head to put it on a shelf, you're using multiple muscles, full chains of muscles at the same time. Very beneficial like that. Then there's isolation exercises. Something like that would be like with a bicep curl where you're just moving one muscle, everything else is stationary like that. And then there's also isometric exercises where you're not moving. So that could be like a wall sit with your back against the wall where you're sitting on it, there's no chair. Or it could be if you're in a plank, just lying there, you're not moving, but your muscles are working and you're shaking. So there's different types of doing these. Most of these will be compound movements, a few isolation I'll show you. And then as the weeks progress, I'll show you more different types of exercises. So basically, I just want to tell you really quick before I show these exercises, a couple more things. One is it's called the overload principle, and that's what helps you get stronger. You're on a microscopic level, your muscle cells are like this, and when you're lifting hard, there's actually microscopic trauma to them, like microscopic tearing that happens, and then they repair themselves and get bigger and stronger, and that's what causes you to get stronger muscles, is when you work them out. But it's important that you allow yourself time to recover. So if you're doing a vigorous or hard workout, you don't want to work the same muscle 2 days in a row. You always want to do it like every other day, unless it's just like very light type of stuff. It's not an issue. But if you're going hard, you want to give the body time to recover. That's really important. So remember, don't go too hard multiple days in a row, or you can get overtraining or injury that way. So that's why I kind of like a split of cardio one day, resistance training the other. I kind of like to split it up, but everyone's different. Again, I'll get with you on what works best for you. And then the other thing is knowing how much to lift. That's kind of tricky. Typically, we're going to have 10 repetitions when we do any exercise. We're going to do it 10 times, the movement. And then, so if it's too easy, if you have a weight, for instance, I have lots of clients that have like these little pink 1 pound weights less than this. And if they're doing like an exercise over their head like this, and they could do it for like 40 times, it's too light. So you want to get heavy enough where it's challenging to finish 10 of them. If you can do like 15, 16, then it's time to bump up the weight. And that's okay if you can only do like 7 or 8 when it goes heavier. You'll adapt to it over time, so don't worry about that. But typically you'll do 10 repetitions of an exercise and you'll do it 3 times and rest usually for about a minute between each set. So rest a minute, sometimes 40 seconds. It depends on how hard it is and your conditioning level, but typically you don't want to wait more than a minute before you do another set. So usually we'll do 3 sets of 10 repetitions of each of these exercises. This week, however, because we're starting out, we're just going to do 2 sets of each of these exercises. But this week I want you to do these exercises 3 times, and I want you to do 2 sets of each of these exercises. So 3 times during the week, and then we'll do 2 sets and 10 reps each time. So I'm going to show you these exercises really quick. First of all, for your chest, we're going to stick with the push-up. That's a nice one. You don't need any equipment. I demonstrated that for you on your fitness assessment test. So just if you want to look at that, make sure you have good form, you're staying straight, you're coming down far enough, you're breathing out when you push up. So push-up is the first one. Sit-up, I also demonstrated. Just make sure that you're not cranking on your neck. That's why I kind of like to just keep the hands free and reach your hands towards your knees when you're doing the sit-ups. I'm going to show you a couple new exercises now. The first one is for your back. And the back can be kind of tricky. It's hard if you don't have like equipment for like a lat pull down or a pull-up bar, things like that to exercise your back muscles. So we're going to use gravity. And so what we'll do with this is you'll get a bench or a chair and we'll take a dumbbell, and what we'll do is you'll rest your one hand on here and the other hand will be like this. So remember, nice tight core, and your back, you don't want to arch it like a cap. You want to keep it nice and straight. Pretend like someone could put dishes on your back and they won't fall off. And then you're just going to pull the weight up to your armpit. So this is called a bent over row. This is working your back muscles. Obviously your arms working also, but we're focusing on your lat right here, this muscle right there. So you'll do 10 of these, and then you'll switch, go to the other side, and do 10 on that side. So I want you to do that twice this time, 2 sets of 10. So that's your back. For shoulders, anytime you lift something over your head, your shoulders are going to get a workout. So with this we're just going to do an overhead press. So you want to keep the dumbbells at ear level, come in. It's kind of like a triangle, like they're almost touching at the top in that motion. And you don't want to bring them down too low like this. You want to keep your arms parallel to the floor. And so that's why I like to just keep it ear level like this when you come down. And again, exhale, breathe out on here. And we'll go for 10 of those. If it's too light, too easy, you can do a bunch. You need to bump up on the weight. If it's too hard, you can only do 4 or 5. Lower the weight on here. So overhead press, that's for your shoulders. And then the next one, squats, we also did previously for your legs. This is a great exercise. Just to remind you quickly, for safety, if you have any knee concerns, you can use a chair like this for balance and come down in front of it, or you can use it kind of like a spotter and just come down, sit in it, and stand back up. A lot of people don't go down far enough on a squat, so if you're concerned about that, if you want to use the chair or bench and just actually sit on it each time, that'll get you a better range of motion. Okay, so just a couple others. There's the calf raise. So for your calves, if you want to just hold on to a chair or the wall, and you just go up on your tiptoes, hold it for a second, and back down like this. Now, if that's not very challenging, you can just go on 1 foot at a time. So raise one of your feet off the ground and just isolate your left or right calf. Do 10 on each side. Last 2 are for arms. Now, a lot of people talk about how cardio gets your heart rate up. If you're lifting weights, as you can tell, I'm having a hard time talking now. Once you start doing this, your body definitely using some oxygen to weightlift too. So with biceps, you just bring them up to here and lower it. You want to keep constant tension on your arms the whole time. I'll see in the gym a lot of times guys, usually teenage boys or guys trying to impress girls or something, they're lifting way more weight and you see them doing this. They're bending their knees and their back, but you just want to pretend like you're a statue made of marble and you have a hinge in your arm, and that's the only thing that moves is your arm like this. And breathing again, exhale. That range of motion, nice, slow, and controlled tempo. So that'll work your biceps. And then triceps, it's called the French press. Hopefully I won't hit the ceiling with this. You hold it with 2 hands securely, chin up, keep your elbows pointed forward in front of you, and you just bring it up over your head. So this is called a French press. This will work the triceps, the underside of your arms. And again, just do 10 of these rest, and do another set. So those are exercises for your arms. You'll notice your arms will feel tired from push-ups and those pulls and other things too, but this really is something that isolates the arms. I'll share a lot more exercises in the future. Can't even breathe now. But this week, remember, I want you to do 2 sets of each of these exercises, and I want you to do it 3 times this week. Not too challenging. In addition to your walking, I want you to bump up your walks from 10 minutes to 15 minutes. So 3 times walking for 15 minutes, and then work out 3 times with 2 sets of each of these exercises. So that's your assignment for this week, and I look forward to tomorrow.